welcome back to our channel. We got the Book Babes here to give our thoughts on our past two books of the month, and to give our thoughts on these hyped up books. So first one we're going to be talking about
The Paris Apartment.
Did we want to say who, and does everyone know who we are at this point? Like, did we?
If you don't know who we are, catch up. But also, like, I'm Michelle.
Right? No one else.
Oh, I'm Kelsey.
Oh, it's Steph.
Okay.
Apparently, you don't need to know them. It's fine.
Alright, so we got The Paris Apartment here. Do you want to pull up someone want to read the synopsis of it?
Yeah, we can tell you guys a little bit about what this book is. So on Goodreads says it's a mystery, thriller, fiction, adult suspense in France. So it takes place in France, Paris. But it says, so Jess needs a fresh start. She's broken alone, and she's just left her job under less than ideal circumstances. Her half-brother Ben didn't sound thrilled when she asked if she could crash with him for a bit, but he didn't say no. And surely everything will look better in Paris. Only when she shows up to find a very nice apartment could Ben really have afforded this. He's not there. The longer Ben stays missing, the more Jess starts to dig into her brother's situation, and the more questions she has. Ben's neighbors have come to Paris to escape her past, but it's starting to look like Ben's future that's in question. And then it's just saying the nice guy, the alcoholic, the girl on the verge, the concierge, everyone's a neighbor, everyone's a suspect, and everybody knows something they're not telling.
Okay.
That was a long sentence.
I think I gave it, no, you're good. I was just like, oh, this book.
Yeah.
Yes, because we're all nodding along because we know what they're getting at. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I gave it 3 stars, and it could have been 4 stars. I gave it 3 stars mostly because the ending just was not what I was expecting, not what I was wanting. It was more of a fluffy, happy ending for what I expected from Lucy Foley. But, I mean, her writing style is still good. I just didn't care for the storyline, and I really found the main character annoying. Yeah, I honestly had high hopes for this. This was my first Lucy Foley book, and I knew I had the guest list, but I just hadn't read it because I had heard so many good things. So I was like, I want to save it for later. So then when this one came out, I was really excited, really high hopes, and like based on this synopsis, it was just like sounding like your perfect mystery, thriller, suspenseful. And so I was in the month that we read it, I was in a like thriller binge, so I was already in the mood to read this type of book. And when I started it, I was tabbing all these little clues and like little like Easter eggs that she gives you to kind of like, you know, come up with like what happens and who it is. But towards the end of the book, I like stopped tabbing because it was just like not doing it for me. It just felt really flat at the end. I think I rated it a 3.5, but mostly because the style of writing, like I love that we got the multiple points of views, like that was really fun to follow, and different from like what I've seen other authors do. But I think the setting was there, the opportunity was there, but it was just not delivered. It didn't live up to the expectation I think this book was having.
I agree. It had a lot of hype because this was very anticipated. I think it's been like a year or a year and a half since her previous novel came out, so we were all like waiting for it. I think I gave it 4 stars, and I think I was a little bit nice because I just really like Lucy Foley, and in my mind she's reading my reviews, and yeah, I agreed with some earlier statements. Like the writing itself is good, but the story and the plot fell flat for me. There were some plot holes. There were a couple tidbits that are brought up as these little subplots, and then they don't really go anywhere, and you're left with these questions of, well, then why was that necessary? So without tying everything together at the end, the last resolution of where it ends, like Chanel said, it's like, well, okay, like, like I'm sorry, I wanted it to be darker, okay?
No.
Like, yes. This is not dark enough. But
Pretty much.
anyway, Kelsey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I rated it a 3. I feel like you can't really rate books 1 or 2 just for the fact of like it's an author and they put all their heart and soul to this book, and it was super boring for me, so I didn't really like it, but I couldn't get into it, and I feel like it was more of a mystery versus a thriller and suspense. It wasn't, I didn't feel any suspense and I didn't feel any thrills. I just feel like it was a good solid mystery. Oh, you know, who did it?
Yeah, it was like watching the Clue movie.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
You're like, well, someone died and there was a weapon and there was a building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I did like the point of views. I did like that part too.
Yeah.
To kind of hear other people's perspective, even though it was interesting writing, because I think that's just Lucy Foley, and just the way the characters said things was interesting, and I was like,
yeah, like her writing style
is follow or understand.
Yeah, it can get a little messy. Her writing style definitely is like, she does them, each chapter is a different person. Everyone's the unreliable narrator, so like, you know, you're not sure who did it. You don't even know
weird little things, like the concierge was like, yeah, I'm in the corner looking at something.
Yeah,
and then it like goes to the next person, so you're like, what?
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, okay. Like, sure. She jumps around, you're not sure who's even died, you're not sure who the killer is. She leaves this little like breadcrumb trail of clues.
Yeah. It was like a totally different 180.
Yeah, like a little tangent on the side that could have, and I feel like the story could have still worked without that. Like, it didn't need to go to that dramatic like scene and information, and it could just gone straight to the end without that. It did nothing for me.
Yeah,
it was
just
finding
like
out about the dad.
Yeah.
It was unnecessary. So like overall, I think the story was meh. The writing was good. I think Chanel, you had asked like if we would recommend this, and my response was I would still always recommend Lucy Foley, but if you haven't read anything from her yet, don't start with this one.
Yeah.
The guest list is
start
a good
with the guest
one.
list for sure. Yeah, so I mean, I would recommend it, but like not as priority one.
Yeah. I'd probably recommend it if you like good writing, not storyline, if that makes sense.
Yeah, not for the story, just the writing and the clues, the, like I said, like the little chapters kind of, you know, left you something to follow, but the reward wasn't there.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, on to Daisy Jones and the Six.
Our next very hyped up book.
Very hyped up.
Very hyped up. Yeah, don't come for us. Just saying.
I think I gave this a 3. And I think the only reason why I actually was able to give it a 3 though was because I finished this on audio. And audio, there was someone different for every single character, so it was like listening to a documentary, and it was interesting. However, like, this is literally made for
TV.
For TV. Like, this is a script.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't know that going into it. You could just tell that she wanted this to be a TV show. Like, I don't know. That's my opinion. And I liked the ending. The ending was good and the ending was great. I really enjoyed it. There are some bits and pieces also that I tabbed that I liked, that were just like quotes that resonated with me, but even then, it's still solid 3.
Yeah, I would say like the book itself, like I started reading it, the physical book, and I switched to audiobook. The audiobook was amazing. The audiobook was a 3-star. I also liked what she knows. I think the reason why I finished it was because of the multiple voices and how interactive it was in the audiobook. It was just listening to like a podcast pretty much. But the actual like book, you know, story and everything, it was just not it for me. I don't get the hype. Like, people are saying that they would like die for this book and like take it, you know, and
so hard.
Yeah, they're like sobbed and they're like the most, and I'm like, no.
Where did you cry?
No.
Where?
Not at all. I read it because we were all reading it, but other than that, I don't think I would have
finished.
It.
Yeah, no.
I had bought it because it was so hyped up, and so I was gonna read it anyway, whether it had been our book of the month, but like, I don't totally understand the hype for this, and I say that as someone who has read other TJR novels and I loved them. That's true. Yeah, like her other novels were just so much more emotional. I had no emotional connection to Daisy Jones. There was no character that stood out to me. Again, it felt like it was a documentary of a band that I'd never heard of, so I just don't particularly care. Like, not to sound savage, but like, I don't care all that much. So without having the emotional investment, it's hard for me to really say this was a story worth the hype. I think the writing is what saved it for me. I gave it a 4 instead of a 3. I feel like plot base alone, it would get a 3. The fact that TJR is creative enough to come up with a script, and there's song lyrics in the back of the book. I was like, okay, girl, we can see what you can do. You get a 4 for that, but don't do this again.
Yeah.
I just won't read it again.
Yeah. I'm like, you tried the script thing once. That's enough.
Yeah.
I also gave it a 3-star. And for me, I read the physical book. Super boring, but it did go by fast just for the fact of the writing. Like, that's what I feel like, you know, even versus audio, it still went by fast because it's like, oh, you know, just quick little paragraphs.
It's all dialogue. The book is all dialogue.
Yeah. So I did like that it went fast and I could get over
The suffering was short.
Yes.
But I'm like, I think I need to stay away from Book Talk Table now because these are just
Yes.
kind of
This is our second letdown.
Yeah.
This is not the first time that I have had Book Talk steer me wrong. And I feel like, you know, I understand it's great to make books hyped up, especially for young authors just starting. But at the same time, it's like, well, you're unreliable now. I can no longer trust you. You've burned me twice. And, well, yeah, no.
We'll have to see how the show is, you know,
Yeah,
kind
the
of circle
TV show.
back and
Yeah.
be like, okay, probably a whole different experience.
Yeah,
but-
so this one's being made into a TV show.
So if you haven't read the book yet, just wait for the show.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely wait for it. Yeah.
I like it better.
Yeah, you might like the better, and then you'll get to figure out what the story was anyway.
I feel like if I would watch the show and the show was really good, I would definitely go into the book and probably like the book more
Very true.
based
Yeah.
on what I watched.
It was well written, but not
It was like a
that fun.
story about a band and their drama throughout,
Or lack thereof.
and that's it.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah,
drama.
girl.
Yeah, not any drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of drugs.
Is there?
Lots of
Lots of
drugs.
drugs. And just some weird
Bratty.
people. Yeah.
Character was just a brat.
Some of them were just strange. Like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, the characters didn't do it for me at all. I
Yeah.
wasn't like following
Yeah.
them or like their development or like their, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
so
you
for the
know.
people who cried, was it because the story was awful? I just need to know. I need to know at what point. Give me an example. Where did you cry?
Are you taking it to the grave because you died reading
Yeah, I
it?
know.
Because you were so bored? Like,
Yes.
Do tell.
So I mean, like, don't come for us, but like,
We're being real. We're
yeah.
being real.
And I'm surprised that we all had that reaction too.
Right.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
have
know.
to say something.
Given
Four
that-
out of all four of us thought
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
More thoughts.
And for both books,
both
which I'm pretty surprised by, you know?
And we all have like different interests and different like viewpoints on what we like, and we all kind of agree
And
with
we
the
all-
same.
yeah.
So
we all kind of collectively were very meh about it.
Yes.
None of us were impressed with either of these. Like, I was not blown away, and I say that as someone who loves both of these authors.
Yeah.
It just didn't do it for me, and so I'm glad I've read other things first from both of these authors, or I probably wouldn't read them again.
Yes.
Like,
Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
yes.
Definitely read it. That one I would take
I
to the
need to
grave.
read that.
Yeah.
You're like, switch this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so these were meh. Our next
meh.
book is going to be Stalking Jack the Ripper. I forget the author's name, but I think it's like Carrie Monosco, something like
She
that.
also writes Kingdom of the Wicked.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, which I
is
obsessed.
amazing.
So we'll hopefully that one's good. That one also has very torn reviews on Goodreads.
And that is why I'm excited, because it's like,
So you
where
either
are we
love
gonna
it or you
land?
hate it.
Yeah, 'cause on
Very
Goodreads it
divided.
seems like the people that like romance like it. The people who are like the historical or in thriller side don't like it. So we'll see, because we're torn over here on our likes. So we'll see.
This is the book that we'll be reading. The cover.
Yeah.
We'll post more about it later. Don't worry.
Yes. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.